Welcome back to another episode of Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host and voice of Tiger football, Collin Sheffield. Alongside me, following the 5-0 start for the Tigers, is head coach Jake Russell. Coach Russell, the Tigers 5-0. It was a nasty day, but as Khalil was saying, this is football weather. This is a football game. Those are the ones he misses playing in. I don't really feel the same on that. I probably wouldn't want to play in all that. But it certainly looked like a fun one, and the Tigers obviously coming out with the win makes it even better.
Probably depends on what position you play, whether you consider that football weather. Obviously, Khalil as a linebacker probably loved that. O-line, D-line, running backs. That was kind of the weather they really love. And, like you said, just considering the weather and the effect that the rain had on the ability to throw the ball, the ability to hang on to the football, I thought our guys did a great job. To get 3 touchdown passes out of that game was a big deal. Obviously, it wasn't going to be a game where we threw for 300-plus yards, and we were really leaning on that. So to be able to run the ball effectively, even with Trey out, CA stepped into that role and more and just did a phenomenal job. The O-line did a great job with everything they were asked to do. And then the defense was really the star of the day. Holding them just to barely over 50 rushing yards, a team that runs the ball really well and wants to run the ball. It's just a great victory. Division II team, you get to have that kind of bragging rights on that. And they're a good team. They've had a really tough start to their schedule. They're a team that when you look up at the end of the year, like some other teams we played up to this point, and say, man, that was a really good win.
So the Tigers were able to pull out a victory, 24-8. We'll take a look at some of the big players in that one. Jagger Gillis, 10-19, 164 yards. He threw for those 3 touchdowns. Threw 2 interceptions. Andre Seiler, 3 catches, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns. He put on some miraculous catches. And Jeremiah Pauling, 5 tackles and an interception himself. The Tigers, as you mentioned, on defense, were all movement. I mean, they were rolling from the start, and even when they got pinned back and pushed back into the red zone, they were able to step up and take up the big shots and be able to keep them. Even when they attempted field goals, it was still missing, and so they kept them scoreless until about 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And, I mean, you can't ask much more from a defense.
Yeah, a sign of a great defense is not giving up points, and whatever that means, I always tell people I don't think moving the football really between the 20s is that difficult for most teams. They're talented. They've got guys that can make plays. And then when you get close to the red zone or in the red zone, both teams now are giving you their best. And the defense is really, the phrase bend but don't break. And our defense, Coach Ford and his staff, phenomenal job, like you said, holding down there, not giving up points, forcing some long field goals, and then doing a great job getting pressure on those field goals. While we didn't block the kicks, you can see the difference that's making for our team and in that aspect of the game. But for special teams to play a clean game, for defense to play as well as they did, and the game plan that Coach Ford put in and them to fully buy into that. And then offense, I told our quarterbacks before the game, if the ball is not on the ground at all today, we will win this football game. And it wasn't, right? We had the first one, they got ruled a fumble, but then, the challenge obviously gave us some momentum there. But 0 fumbles, 0 bad snaps, 0, botched exchanges. And at the end of the day, in a game like that, that's going to be the big difference in it.
And, of course, we could talk about how good Andre Seiler is all day long. Those 2 catches over top of defenders. I mean, there's no better feeling I could imagine for a quarterback knowing he's got those kind of weapons out there to throw to, even in a rainy ball game like that.
I always get a kick out of, sometimes we score a touchdown and a player will run by and say, "Great call, coach." And I'm like, yeah, man, what an unbelievable call. And, Dre's second touchdown, well, the first touchdown was on a no play, right? We're just trying to draw him off sides. Right, and he makes this unbelievable catch, over top of the guy, and wow, what an amazing play call. I had nothing to do with the play call, right? And then the second one is actually a run play where we have the freedom to take that matchup, and obviously Jagger did a great job throwing a really good ball. Dre making that catch. At the end of the day, just like the game of basketball, just like baseball we were talking about before the show, it's a one-on-one matchup, right? And when you have guys that can win one-on-one matchups, especially in the passing game, makes all the difference in the world. It's almost like a get-out-of-jail-free card. I'm reading Urban Meyer's book right now, and literally, he kind of brought this offense into the SEC that was, the spread and this like had never before been seen in the SEC and how great it was, and obviously then on to Ohio State. And all he says is we're just trying to create matchups with our best players. recruit great talent, develop the talent, and then get those guys in open space and one-on-one matchups. And I think that's what our guys have the ability to do this year that's really helping us out.
And of course, we saw the run game, get almost a little bit of a rebirth. It kind of had to with the weather as well, but it really came along. And as you mentioned, Trey Bass out. C.A. Collins really stepped up and took a big chunk of that. And of course, we could talk about Kamarion Robinson getting involved there, one of your thicker backs able to come through and push you through in some tough times, get some hard-nosed smash mouth running.
Yeah, Smurfs, what we call Kamarion Robinson, huge third down conversion there in one of his plays. CA played phenomenal. You take out a couple just, miscues that we had that gave him some negative rushes, and I think he really had about 90 yards and then over 50 yards receiving. Obviously the touchdown reception, great catch, especially in that weather for a running back out of the backfield. I mean, that was a huge play in the game. And we're very excited, obviously, to get Trey back and add in all the other guys that are coming off just little nicks and bruises that happen in football. We think the backfield is going to be something as we go through conference play is really going to carry us through this. And obviously, we add that in with the great receiving core and passing threat that we have. And then an offensive line that's just playing phenomenal. I mean, we've got to be right up there with some of the best offensive lines in the country. Coach Lane, the development of those guys doing a great job staying healthy, and then the depth. We've got 7 or 8 guys that could start, and there's no drop-off at all.
In the Tiger kicking game there, it's kind of struggled at times. 2 blocked field goals so far, the other 2 misses. But able to get one to go through, I can't even imagine what that does for the confidence of a kicker and for a field goal unit.
Yeah, Collin's an unbelievable talented kicker. We've got all the confidence in the world in him. In those conditions, to make that field goal to start the game was huge. We knew it was a game that wasn't going to be super high scoring because of the weather, because of their style of play. We knew getting ahead early was huge. Not only the field goal, but to make all the PATs, because then it puts you up 24-0, I believe, at one point. And basically, at that point, they're having to score 3 touchdowns and 3 two-point conversions just to force a tie game, which by the time, if you have that score in the fourth quarter, you're in great shape. The odds are you're going to win the game. But the special teams in general, obviously, Allween on his kickoffs, I think he's like almost 80% on touchbacks, which is, just can't ask for more. His punting has been awesome all year. I think we've only missed 1 PAT, which has been huge for us. But special teams in general, Coach Beatty leading that alongside Coach Atwood. Coach Bryson's doing a great job in there as well. I think that's been a huge step up in our program this year.
Football's certainly big in all 3 phases, and all 3 phases were on display in that one. We're going to step away and take a quick break here on Under Center with Jake Russell.
Jason, let's go see your room.
No, that's not right. How is it? Is it good?
Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome. Prediabetes does. 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, but with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. And you can change the outcome. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test today. Go to doihaveprediabetes.org.
Hello and welcome back to Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host, Collin Sheffield. Alongside me, color commentator and former Fighting Tiger, Khalil Baker. Khalil, glad to have you in studio, and we'll get down to talking business already. The Tigers are 5-0. This is a beautiful start for them. We've been in the booth for every game so far, and these Tigers are flying around on defense. This has been one of the biggest stories. Of course, the offense has always been explosive. The defense has always been really good, but this defense, especially against Roosevelt last week, put up some major stands in the red zone, as well as just able to fly around and make the stops when they need to.
I think since I've been here, man, I think it's been like one of the more impressive defenses I've seen so far. I think it's on track for that for sure. Of course, you want to see how the season finishes out. We're about to really face some tougher competition, especially when we get into conference play. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. But this defense, again, they have everything you need in a good foundation when it comes to defense. They have great coaching. Coach Ford has done an amazing job with his play calls and adjustments, and has a great defensive staff over there, of course, too. But when it comes down to like their physicality, how much they fly around, how much they rally, they're having fun out there. We always talk about the sidelines on broadcast too, and how like the sidelines are always into it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a team that they like each other. You can tell that, and that's a big part of it too. But they want to take the opponent's heads off in a for a better phrase, But it's been really fun to watch. It's probably one of those defenses I wish I was a part of, just because of how much fun they have, how physical they are, how much they want to impose their will on the other team. So you can really see that out there. Of course, I think the back end can be taken care of a little bit more. I think when it comes down to communication, they do a lot of difficult things on defense, and Coach Ford really likes to switch things up as far as disguising different blitzes, different stunts, calls that way too. But I think they are really starting to click and really figure things out and really be more confident who they are and what they've been called to be.
And on every level of the defense, too, not only, I think we've seen almost a rebirth in the secondary with a lot of the transfer guys in there, as well as guys that have already been here for Campbellsville. They're forcing interceptions. They're forcing turnovers. People in the secondary getting forced fumbles. I mean, they're doing it all back there, but it also starts some of their success with the success our front line has had getting in and causing pressure, guys like Quintarius Tanksley and Miles Butler coming in off the side.
Yeah, you said it right. Those transfer guys have been huge for us. They've been a really big deal for this defense and just this turnaround as a team in general. You talk about all those turnovers. We even have a defensive lineman, Terry Brown, who has a turnover himself, right? So they've been able to really make plays, cause turnovers, and really put pressure on offenses too. I think that another good sign of a good defense is a defense that can cause turnovers and really make it difficult for the other team. So I just love what we've seen so far. Those guys on the back end are really starting to figure it out. Of course, we've gotten C.J. Cutliff back, and so pairing C.J. Cutliff when you got Obi out there together, awesome tandem, but even speaks to the depth that we have. We got Paul Maxwell, Nigel Norris, and then even those safeties back there, DQ Brown, we got Josiah Harris, Gerard Johnson. We got some guys who can really play. So there's a lot of depth on that back end, but there's depth in all places too. Linebackers, defensive linemen. I don't want to continue to shout out names because there's so many names that we can go through. But it's been really impressive to see, and it's a testament to who those guys are as players and people, but also to this coaching staff for going out there recruiting and bringing in some guys who can really change around the culture and the program.
On the offensive side of the ball, the Tigers have been as explosive as usual. They're averaging over 40 points a game, but the Tigers have been all over it on offense. They started with the rush game against Pikeville, was able to rush through extremely hard, picked up a lot of rushing yards. Trey Bass being a big part of that, but it's also been a two-headed snake, especially now that they got back C.A. Collins, and C.A. Collins has been able to add a whole nother level to that backfield.
Yeah, so we've seen quite a few different running backs this season so far. Bass was a huge part against Pikeville especially, but even getting C.A. Collins back has been huge for us. He's had a really good game, last game of course too. Just really being able to use his vision, go behind those counters, those pulling guards, those power runs, and really make his mark and let them kind of pave the way for him too. But we've also had Elijah Robb, who's played a big part of the season earlier on as a freshman, and then Camarion Robinson, who's been a stable, consistent running back for us too. So it's been really good to see, having 4 different running backs that we can rotate and kind of take pressure off each other. But his offense is also starting to click a little bit more too. It's still going to be a pass-heavy offense, no matter how much you want to see them establish the run and how much they want to establish the run themselves. But you look at guys like, on the outside. I don't know if are you getting to this part? actually. Are you getting to
You can go ahead if you want. You can go ahead and start.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, even when you get to this offense and just the different pieces that we have on it, the offensive line, of course, has done a great job protecting and giving Jagger time, giving Justice Law time, giving them different opportunities to really get the ball down the field and letting plays develop. So that's been really good to see because we do have a lot of developing plays and concepts when it comes to attacking downfield, attacking over the middle, intermediate sections, even trying to get some different shots down the field as far as one-on-ones on the outside to Siler, who had 2 really big plays last game as well for touchdowns. So this offense is really starting to find themselves and be more consistent. You got guys like Luke Shepperson, you got guys like Siler, Nate Monroe, Ocker, Busey, who's even been really big for us at tight end, really attacking that middle of the field too. So I'm just excited to see this offense continue to go. I think they can really put pressure on people. When you look at how our offense kind of does things as far as being a high-powered offense that can go through the air but can also surprise you a little bit on the ground, and then you pair that with the defense that is so physical and really makes things difficult for you. And then over the time of the game, it wears on you, as another team. So I think they complement each other so well when it comes to that football and playing complementary football. So I love what the offense is doing so far. Coach Russell has been having good game plans and play calls to even using different quarterbacks as well when it looks like a Justice Law who can bring that dual threat as well and getting him experience in his freshman year because he's going to need that later down the road at some point. And God forbid, you never know what happens with Jagger, but now we got another guy who can step in if he needs to and still take command of the offense. And then Jagger has been, especially recently, firing all cylinders and really operating the offense, whether it is passing the ball a lot or just kind of like taking what the defense gives you with underneath runs or underneath passes. So I'm excited to see this offense continue just to find who they are and click a little bit more.
I couldn't have talked about the offense better myself. Of course, we're on to the next game mentality. It was Bluefield that we've scored 69 points on. It just came to me, so it was Bluefield. But let's go ahead and plug your show, ICUS. Talk to us a little bit about what that is.
Now, of course, ICUS keeps us very busy in a way, too, just because we have so many sports on campus. So, of course, we don't cover football and basketball. We got you for that. You're good for that, of course, too. But we have so many other sports to cover as well. So it's just it's really fun when you can hit these different sports during the fall and the spring semester. Next semester is going to be super busy as well. Just hitting different sports. You got wrestling, cross country, just all those different sports. Baseball as well coming to the forefront of things too. So I love getting to do this and just talk with different coaches, different programs, different players for those programs, and just allow them to actually have an opportunity to talk about themselves. So like even yesterday, or I should say earlier this week, we talked to archery, which is not a program that always gets put out there, right? But this is just an opportunity for them because they're very passionate about what they do. Coach Eastridge is very passionate about his people, passionate about his sport, and he's just all around a great guy to talk to. So it's great to get him out there. We even had Philip Kokar, who is an archer for that team as well, who is quite the same and loves to get himself out there like with his teammates especially too. So we love getting to just talk to different programs and allowing them just to get themselves out there and get the exposure they need because I think we do a great job here at CU of giving those opportunities, and we have so much to offer. So it's great just to give another platform and an avenue and take pressure off of different departments in that way.
Well, Khalil, thank you for stopping by. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Be sure to check in on ICUS on the Campbellsville Tigers YouTube page. And when we come back, we'll sit down with head coach Jake Russell to talk about the upcoming matchup with the Cumberland Phoenix here on Under Center with Jake Russell.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you
I never graduated from high school.
I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to Under Center with Jake Russell. I'm your host, Collin Sheffield. Alongside me for the final segment, head coach Jake Russell. Coach Russell, let's talk about this matchup with the Cumberland Phoenix. You got two undefeated teams coming together to start conference play. This is the first Mid-South Conference game of the season as well as a night game here at Finley Stadium, the only one at Finley Stadium, and for the rest of your season, 7 o'clock kickoff. There's got to be a feeling in the air when Mid-South Conference opponents come together, especially two undefeated ones at that, going at it under the lights.
Yeah, I think just the perfect storm. You know, what more could you ask for? You know, if there was a college game day for NAI, we'd probably be in the running for that. Two undefeated teams. Coach Mathis has done a phenomenal job over there, just continuing to get them to improve. They've got a quarterback that's played a ton of snaps, a great talent, a big rushing threat in himself. They run the ball great. They're very physical, and they're a team that's playing their best football. They just had a great win against Ford Memorial this past week, and that was a big win for their program, and they're really excited about, you know, having the chance to come in undefeated, and they've got those same aspirations and goals that we have that are still on the table for them. That's not true for everybody in the country, but our conference is just is so awesome. We've talked about it before. I think Coach Atwood told me yesterday that our conference combined record right now is somewhere around 42-9. And a lot of those losses have been against really high-ranked NAI teams or even non-NAI schools. And so we're excited for conference play. You could kind of feel and hopefully see in our practice this week that the guys realize, like, this is what it's about. This is the goals and dreams we have are right here in front of us now. Obviously, winning the conference gets you to the next step in what you want to accomplish, being in the playoffs and having a chance to win the national title.
If I'm not mistaken, the Mid-South Conference right now has number 5, number 18, number 23, and then Campbellsville at number 26. So 4 teams right there, all in the rankings in the polls every week so far. Bethel, of course, looking good. And you start looking down at the next games. Of course, you don't want to look too far, but you start thinking about, you know, the gauntlet that is Mid-South Conference play, and you see all these ranked opponents coming up. And you know there's no shortage of competition. But you have a Mid-South Conference Offensive Player of the Week coming in, Luke Holloway. We talked about him just a tad, and he was, I believe, 11 of 12, 85 yards and a touchdown. That's passing. And rushing-wise, he rushed for over 100 yards. He's their leading rusher, not just in that past game. He rushed for 3 touchdowns. But he also can get a breakaway and rushes for the entire team throughout the season through the 4 games so far. So what are some of the difficulties when you have to face a quarterback like this who we haven't really faced yet this season?
Well, it gives you a extra blocker, you know, using the running backs and the tight ends because now the quarterback is not handing the ball to somebody. He's the one with the ball. So it gives you an advantage in numbers. Obviously, Luke is a guy that's a multi-year starter now, that's been a really good player, that's given team fits for several years, and their offensive coordinator and their staff has done a phenomenal job of building off of his strengths. As you mentioned, I think he's completing over 75% of his passes on the year through 4 games, which is just, you know, great stuff. And they're doing a great job being efficient in that, but doing what they do really well, which is running the football, using him in the run game, doing some read stuff, just being able to really control the game on that side of the ball because they're marching the ball down the field. They're very comfortable in being physical and getting 3, 4, 5, 6 yards at a time. And that puts, you know, obviously for an offensive guy and our offense being explosive puts us in a situation where we have to be very efficient. There's way less room for error when you're playing a team like that. But yeah, it's a great opportunity for us. You know, obviously, as you mentioned, talked to our team about the temptation of looking ahead, right? We get a bye week, then we get Lindsey Wilson, which is obviously a big deal here, Battle of Highway 55. They're going to be high ranked. And then we start to say, man, these goals are really attainable. We're only this many wins away from being a conference champion, from making the playoffs, from being ranked, all these things. But with all that going on around, the night game, the waiting around all day, the new black uniforms will come out this week, all that stuff going on, can we still focus on the game plan against Cumberland, Tennessee? Tennessee, who is a very good team, and we're going to have to play well to win. So that'll be the great challenge this week.
Both teams are averaging around 40 points a game. You know, these are two very offensive teams so far this season. But this defense has been so good. I think this defense is going to match up super well, especially with the linebackers. You talk about how linebackers love to go north to south a lot, right? Mm-hmm. But these guys can move east to west just as well. They move sideline to sideline better than most linebackers in the country.
Yeah, we've talked about our linebacking core and how great they are, and how much depth and how many good football players we have, and you're seeing that every week. And they're going to continue to play great, and obviously Ellis Reed in there leading those guys, and Kel Hagan with his veteran experience, and Jeremiah Pauling's playing his best football he's ever played in his life. Miles Butler, is a young star for us, and then all the guys that come in off the bench that we don't lose anything at all. Noah Steen and all those guys in the group there. But I think our defensive line and their improvement. They're now getting the QB on the ground, pressuring the quarterback, changing the game, controlling the line of scrimmage. I think that's been a huge difference for us as well, because having great linebackers is good, but if they're chasing and making tackles for 4 to 6 yards every time, it's not the best scenario. But when your defensive line is dominating the line of scrimmage, 0-yard runs and 1-yard runs, that really does change the game. So this will be a great challenge for us. They're very talented up front. They're big up front. They run the ball physically, and we're looking forward to it. I know those defensive coaches don't need any motivation. So,
what's your week like preparing for a game like this when you have guys like Coach Ford and all them that are all around you? How do you go about preparing for a game like this and getting your guys ready?
Yeah, so obviously, being on the offensive side, I'm through Monday, and really by practice on Tuesday, the full game plan will be there. We'll start to practice the plays that we envision could work. We've obviously got our, plays we've had in since day one that are our bread and butter, but you're always, game planning for a handful of, unique plays for the opponent. You'll run those through the week, and you'll probably scrap at least 1 or 2 of those and say, these aren't quite looking right, not what we envision. But there's probably 3 or 4 there that say, hey, these are plays that we really feel have a good chance. Some of those are trick plays that you've seen work. The double pass a few weeks ago was one. So we're always going to have some of those in there, do some fun stuff for the guys. And then it's just about teaching those to young men. That way they can go in Saturday and do something that maybe they just learned on a Tuesday and be able to go out there and execute it. But obviously Coach Ford and his staff they're in the office right now watching film. Coach Ford's one of the best at that, and his staff is all bought in on it. And they're on the defensive side, tendencies, and what's their most common play on third down, what's their most common play in the red zone, and then what defense can we get that will be really good against that. And as far as game planning, this is one of the best staff I've ever been on, and I think getting our guys to buy into that and have the ability to learn it really fast, because in 6 days from that game, it'll be a new game plan, a new opponent. So that's the big challenge week to week, and that makes the difference week to week. And then I always tell our staff, there's a whole staff of guys right now in Cumberland, Tennessee and Lebanon, Tennessee doing the exact same thing with us. So that's kind of the competitive side of coaching, because on game day you don't get to go out there and play and make the plays and hit and do all that stuff. That's, as a coach, what really keeps it competitive and keeps it fun for you.
Well, thanks, Coach. We appreciate you stopping by, and best of luck this Saturday.
Yeah, thank you. Looking forward to it.
The Tigers are 5-0, and they are heading in to take on the 4-0 Cumberland Phoenix at Finley Stadium this Saturday, October 5th. The kickoff is set for 7 p.m. Please be at Finley Stadium. Make it loud, make it proud. And if you can't be there, you can join us on the Campbellsville Tiger YouTube page, as well as on 88.7 The Tiger and the TuneIn app. And as always, be sure to tune in next week to Under Center with Jake Russell.